Whenever I feel hurt in my marriage, my tendency is to keep my feelings inside. This hurt can come from feeling misunderstood after an argument or an unfulfilled request, or from feeling rejected or neglected. In the past, I would occasionally get the courage to talk about some of these feelings with my wife, but when the outcome wasn't how I wanted it to be, I would feel stuck, and my reaction would be to just withdraw and promise I'll never talk about it again. Sometimes I would turn to pornography as a way out and as a way of getting back in the form of silent, vindictive punishment. Whenever I'd wake up the next morning, I would feel so much guilt and shame and regret. Sometimes, when I was alone, I would take off my sweatshirt and just whip it on the floor out of frustration and anger. Other times, I would disengage and not say much to my wife for several days, or I would snap back at my wife over insignificant things. And 2 years ago, I reached my lowest point. I knew that something had to change in my life, or else another decade would go by where I would continue living with this anger and resentment and sexual sin. And that's when I joined Hope Group, despite my fear of disclosure. I chose to share my struggle in front of the whole group, and that was the turning point for me. When I laid it all out there for everyone to see, it forced me to stop blaming other people and making excuses, and instead I had to take direct responsibility for my thoughts and my actions. I discovered through that process that my anger and resentment towards my wife was fueling my addiction, and I was using that anger to justify my decision to look at pornography in that moment of temptation. Now, once I realized that my anger was a sin and a problem, I kept sharing that as my prayer request at my table every week. But after about 3 to 4 months of sharing that, I'd had enough. I realized that anger was destroying me. Then one day during a conversation with my wife, I was ready and I finally let go of it. The Lord changed my heart and I surrendered to contentment. At that moment, I could feel the weight lifted off my shoulders. My attitude completely changed and I could feel freedom. I've been free from my anger and resentment and free from my past sexual addiction ever since. And my life has been transformed by the power of God. The guilt and shame is gone, and I have no fear now because I am truly free. My name is Kent, and I thank God that He's freeing me from my anger.